Video Project 1 for Using Data for School Improvement by me, Macy Mitchell. The first question was, what is the purpose of school? And I think there are many purposes of school. And first and foremost, it is to teach students. If school wasn't established, I'm not sure how our young children would learn basic knowledge. Also, in teaching students, we want them to love to learn so much that they become lifelong learners. Even when they are done with school, we want students to continue to learn new things. I also think school is somewhere where you can learn and build relationships, whether that be relationships with teachers and students, students and students, students and administration, teachers and administration. Relationships are built every single day, and there are some students who need that consistent relationship in their life. Also, school isn't just to learn new knowledge, but it is also to grow as a person. Students spend most of their time at school, so that is where they learn a lot of new things outside their home, and it is where they learn who they are as a person. Also, I think another purpose of school is for students and teachers to learn to collaborate with others and learn teamwork. Sometimes we can't do things on our own, or we get required to work with a group, and students need to learn to work and collaborate with others. And lastly, I think another purpose of school is for students to learn to use critical thinking. When students are young, they tend to be given everything and they don't have to work or deeply think about stuff. And teachers need to help students in this way by requiring them to use higher level thinking in order to figure out new things. The next question was, where can data be found at your school? And although I am not in a school right now, I know you can find data at the counselor's office. At the school I did my student teaching at, she is the one that kept all the students' test scores. She organized it all and also held meetings to discuss some of the data with the teachers. Also, I know you can find data at My School Info online. Here you can find any school's letter grade, their enrollment, their academic programs, if they have free or reduced lunches, their statistics like English learners, class size, special education percentage, the school rating, including their ESSA index score, ethnicity percentages, and different reports. And also, that website can be used for any school district. But however, the website does not have specific student scores that is only found in your school district. Next, we are going to talk about the importance of data and how it is used. So there are many different reasons why data is important. And first, it measures students' progress as they test throughout the year and from a year-to-year basis. And it helps to see where the school is at as a whole, and it helps to show what direction the school needs to move in. It also measures program effectiveness and if something needs to be changed. It guides curriculum development, knowing what curriculum works for your school as a whole and best for your students. It also promotes accountability between administration and teachers. They can rely on each other to hold each other accountable for their work and their actions. It shows trends that can be good or bad and helps show if changes need to be made. It shows if the school meets state and federal reporting requirements. And this is very crucial because there are certain things that the government or state require of each school. And data over a period of time is used to reflect over many years, usually 3 to 5, to see if a school is making the changes it wants. Big changes do take time to implement, so looking at a 3 to 5 year period tends to show what changes are actually being made long term. Data is also used on a year-to-year basis for smaller changes that could be made on a smaller scale. This data is used to set new goals for the coming year, and discussions happen about what they can improve on from one year to the next. It also helps when taking practice state tests depending on what grade level you're at, and that can be used to make adjustments mid-year, and these changes are on a much smaller scale and they are much more individualized for the students to improve their test scores in the middle of the year. Next, we're going to talk about the barriers to collecting data and analyzing data. So, barriers to collecting data, some people don't know where to find it, and they don't bother trying to find the information that would be beneficial to know and to use in their school or their classroom. Sometimes it's not easily accessible, whether that be to cost problems or other situations. It's also important when collecting data to figure out which data is worth generating or worth gathering, so some people might not know how to find that. And in the book, Using Data to Improve Schools, the authors gave questions to ask yourself when collecting and analyzing data, which are: is the data being used to achieve a district goal? Is the data the only way to address the problem? And given that it generally takes 6 months to 3 years to generate, collect, and analyze data, can the district wait, and will the data be relevant to the question? So those are some things to think about when collecting data if you're having trouble figuring that out. Some of the barriers to analyzing data: people in the schools don't know how to use the data to benefit their school. They also don't know how to break down the data. Also in the book, the Vermont Department of Education recommended the following when analyzing data. Whenever possible, use data from the same source from year to year. That way it stays consistent. Use multiple measures of data. Always consider the nature, size, and characteristics of the group being analyzed. Remember, the large-scale assessment data are about the school's program and not just the grade at which the assessment is administered. And lastly, to compare performance from different groups of students or disaggregated data. And the goal is to reduce differences in performance among groups while increasing excellence for all. Next, we are going to talk about the 4 kinds of data you should look at in your school. First is demographics, which includes enrollment, attendance, dropout rate, ethnicity, gender, and grade level. Second is perceptions, which includes perceptions of learning environment, values and beliefs, attitudes and observations, or environmental improvements. Third is student learning, which includes standardized tests, norm or criterion reference test, teacher observation of abilities, and formative assessments. Fourth is school process, which includes description of school programs and processes, or how classrooms change. Now, if you look at this diagram, you can see that there are the 4 kinds of data. You can also see that in a lot of places there are crossovers between 2, 3, or all 4 kinds of data. Explaining some of these, like the two-way cross-section of perceptions in student learning, tells us the impact of student perceptions of the learning environment on student learning. The cross-section of student learning and student processes tells us if a program is making a difference in student learning results. Now, a 3-way cross-section even goes deeper than the 2-way. The cross between demographics, perceptions, and student learning tells us the impact of demographic factors and attitudes about the learning environment on student learning. The 3-way cross-section between student learning, school process, and demographics tells us what processes or programs work best for different groups of students with respect to student learning. Now, the last crossover I'm going to talk about is the only 4-way cross between all 4 types of data. And this allows the predictions of actions, processes, and programs that best meet the learning needs of all students. Now, even though I didn't go through all of the cross sections, each one does tell us a little something different from that data that can benefit the school. Next, we're going to talk about who should know the data of a school and why. Almost everyone involved in the school and in the community around the school needs to know the data of the school. First off, administrators need to know the data for many reasons. First, to see where the school is actually at in all data aspects and decide if changes need to be made. It is also the administration's job to educate parents and community members about what different data convey and how to use data to measure the successes of school improvement efforts, budget decisions, and other matters that may need to be discussed or shared with the community. The administration is also responsible for asking teachers, parents, and community stakeholders what their concerns are for the school and what data they need to know the school is improving. It is important for teachers, parents, and the community to know the data as well. For teachers, they need to know where the school is at, along with their students, and it helps if they know the data so they can put ideas out on the table to make positive changes toward the school. That way their voice is heard when school-wide decisions are being made. Knowing the data will also benefit teachers because it will allow them to reflect on their own teaching and make personal changes. As for parents, knowing the data, it's important for them to know because their child is at the school and the school is responsible for their child's learning. When parents know the data, they can also assist with ideas when changes need to be made. If a parent is concerned about something, they should be able to talk to administration so that the parent can see where the school is trying to improve. Lastly, the community needs to know the data as well. Stakeholders in the community can have a lot of influence on a school. If they see changes that need to be made, they can make their voice known, and the administrators will be open to hear any concerns that they may have. Understanding that public schools belong to the public and school leaders need the public's permission to do the work they are trying to do to make positive changes in the school. The last thing we're going to discuss is disaggregated data, what it means, and why it is important. And disaggregated data is to break down data by established subcategories or different types of layers. In another book of Bernhardt's, she described 4 layers of disaggregation. The first layer is asking how many students are there, male versus female, limited English proficiency versus non-LEPs, or ethnicities, and lunch codes. The second layer asks how have the demographics changed over time, looking at increases versus decreases in categorical variables. The third layer asks what percentages of students are gifted and are they equally distributed among genders and ethnicities. And the fourth layer asks how has the enrollment of LEP students entering the building changed over the years, and do the students with higher attendance get better grades. Those are all things to consider to break down the data, which is disaggregated data. And it is important to do that because it can reveal deprivations and inequalities that may not be fully reflected in aggregated data, which is a full summary of the data. In conclusion, my biggest 3 takeaways were that data is important for schools to look at. It tells where they are and where they need to go, and it also is very much needed. Data tells us everything from the ethnicity in the school, gender, limited English proficiency, low income, dropout rates, the school letter, grade, test scores, and so much more that need to be looked at to make positive changes in a school. Second, that there are multiple ways to use it and interpret it. From the 4 kinds of data, there is so much you can get out of it to use toward benefiting your school. And lastly, that everyone needs to know it. The administrators, the teachers, parents, the community, and honestly, even the students need to know about it. That way, it's a citywide input on changes in the school district. And here are my 2 references.